Well, we need to know a couple of things. Number one, we need to know how the world's premier law enforcement agency managed to lose 5 months worth of text. And what's also troubling is in the text we do have, they're discussing how to avoid text being captured and secured. So what's missing is important, but also what's there is important. It is manifest bias, not just against Trump, but against his kids, against his business interests. There's a text where they hope the Trump hotel fails. That is a level of bias that you rarely see and you never see from law enforcement officers. What's also troubling to me is this text that Johnny Ratcliffe found last night about this secret society. Now, I have no clue what that means because that was not the phraseology I used, but it's the day after the election, and it's the same two people that were discussing a little bit later in the text the damage they had done with the Clinton investigation and how they could, quote, fix it and make it right.
What's out there? My goodness, Wednesday, May 2nd, 2018. I'm Papa Bear, and this is What's Out There. Of course, Wednesday, we've got Peter Kling with us today, and we're going to touch on a little bit of the news that's going on. Is it real news, or is it live, or is it Memorex? Is it real, or is it fake? Is it, what, fact, artifact, or artifiction? How about that? Peter Kling, how are you?
Very good. Boy, we're just in time for the whom the bell tolls for, huh?
I had to mute it because that thing is pretty loud, as you can tell. I've got the window open today, and I'm trying to mute out the sounds the best I can, but I don't know. I think I'm kind of getting defeated here.
Well, don't worry about it. We're here, and that's what matters. We've got a fantastic listening audience, I'm sure, and they'd like to hear some truth, some real truth, things that we can actually say, yeah, okay, this is what it actually is, and that is a rarity in this world anymore.
It certainly is. You know, it used to be that people were informed, you know, and it used to mean informed meant you read the news, you know. But today it's a whole different thing, because when you read the news, it doesn't necessarily mean you're informed. You're informed of something, but is it the real news, or is it not? You know, I mean, think about it, right, Peter? I mean, we all know somebody who sat down on Sunday morning, grabbed the Sunday paper, they spend the day with the Sunday paper all morning with it. All right, they throw the funny papers, remember?
Sure.
When I was a kid, I used to read the funny papers and such, you know. Of course, you know, being a kid. And I didn't pay much attention to news because music was the thing then, right? Music was the big deal. You know, when you're a kid, you don't want to hear news, you want to hear music, you want to move your body, not your brain, right? So, but yeah, many of us, of course, we know people who actually, people who sit right after dinner and watch the news all afternoon, right into the evening, one right after the other. And then you find out people like Tom Brokaw, they're not as honest as you think they are.
Well, you know, none of them really are as honest as you would think they are. And it's not that they're dishonest. They're doing a job. When we think of the news anymore, we have to think of Hollywood.
Right.
A production. It's all a production, and it's done for ratings.
Yes.
So if they're doing it for ratings, what are they willing to say that may not be real?
Whatever gets an audience.
You know, I love that little video that's out there where, you know, they question, if you don't think the news is scripted, watch this. And so it's a YouTube video, and you click on it. It was actually, I think, done by NBC, did it a few weeks back.
Right,
but
yeah.
it's they're not the first ones to do it. This was exposed a long time ago, several years ago. This was exposed on the internet, where they show a couple of newscasters talking back and forth, and then they split the screen, and you got 4 different newscasters speaking back and forth, and they're saying the same exact words, and they keep on dividing the screen, and before you know it, you've got like 40 different people saying the same exact words at the same exact time from news stations all across the country.
You're right, and that's the thing. They're a franchise. And when you're a franchise, you have to sell the franchise product, right?
Hey, McDonald's hamburgers are the same on the East Coast as they are on the West Coast.
That's right. Exactly. And when you're dealing, remember Sears, you bought Craftsman. You bought Craftsman coast to coast. Sears and
Absolutely.
Craftsman. You know, that was the way it was. You didn't buy anything. You didn't buy Husky. You didn't buy Snap-on. You didn't buy anything like that. You know what I mean? You bought,
and the problem is we're buying the
Kenmore.
false news. And we're buying the fake news now.
Exactly. And it's all, you know, you've got five entities putting out all the news. Everything you hear is all put out by 5 major entities, except for the alternative, which is us here. Okay, us here with what we're doing. Okay.
And Barry, I want to just qualify that for a second.
Sure.
We even need to be careful on the alternative news.
Yes.
Because the internet has degraded since its inception. You know, we hit this peak somewhere shortly after the turn of the century, when, you know, everybody was using the internet for a positive way. We were looking for information and gathering some fantastic stuff. I mean, there was some great stuff on the internet 15 years ago.
There still is.
Right? There still is, but boy, it's like gold mining. You have to go search for it, because there's so much disinformation and propaganda that's put out there, and people who just want to have ratings, so they invent anything to say and twist the truth. So we have to be diligent and really research what it is that is happening on this planet.
Right. Oh, absolutely. Don't take anything for granted.
Yeah, if we want to
a
be
lot of the
informed,
news you're getting, a lot of the news you're getting is fake news anyway. And here we go, fake news. Listen, as far as myself, what I do, I relay from other sources. That's all I'm doing. I'm not a journalist by any means. Am I a reporter? I don't know. I think I'm just a relayer. How about that? That's about it. Because I don't take anything that's not out there. You know what I mean? That's not in print. That's not out there on the net.
The thing that you do is you draw attention to a subject that needs closer scrutiny.
Yeah.
And that's all we can do. You know, I can't force my thoughts on anyone. Not that I really care to.
Right.
But, you know, if the ship is sinking, it would be negligent on my behalf to not explain the situation that we're facing.
Right.
To at least not sound an alarm or a warning. Oh, let's see, the building's on fire. I think I'll sneak out and leave everybody else inside. You know?
Oh, yeah, that's a wise choice, always, yeah.
Yeah, before the panic breaks out, I'm leaving.
Yeah, leave me alone. Take the girl. Yeah, right.
Well, in one sense, that's kind of what I have done.
Right.
But in another sense, I'm still here. I'm still explaining things to people, still looking at the news from a biblical prophetic standpoint.
Yeah.
Religion's dead. Forget religion.
Right. Oh, exactly. All religion.
Organized religion will, according to biblical prophecy, will be destroyed.
Yeah. What isn't dead is in the process of being killed.
Yeah, and those are God's words, not mine. You know, that's interestingly enough. If God wanted religion, here's the thing: we have Christianity based on the teachings of this man we call Jesus. And it's divided into over 30,000 different sects. In other words, there's over 30,000 different ways to believe what this man said. Are you serious?
Yeah, but the thing is, I mean, nobody even knows what he taught, never mind believes it. It's like Jesus was the original rebel. He was the guy that came in and said, they don't own you.
He came in, he went into the temple and threw the banksters out.
Yeah, right.
He made a whip of, you know, people have, Jesus is love. He's Prince of Peace. He's coming back and he's going to save us. He's coming back to kick this world's butt, not necessarily the people on the planet.
Right.
But the planet isn't run by the people anyway.
He didn't come here to tell you he's coming back. all right? He came here to tell you how to live until he comes back. That's what he did.
And he said nothing about religion. Jesus was a Jew.
That's
he
right.
He lived in a it's believed that he was part of the Essene sect, which was a very strict order, which they would have followed the Mosaic law to the best of their absolute ability. And from there, and then people say, "Oh, well, Jesus was a Buddhist monk, man. He learned from Buddha." No, Jesus never talked to anyone who wasn't Jewish.
Right.
The only exception was the woman, the Samaritan at the well, the woman who was a Samaritan that Jesus met at the well and asked her to pour him the water. That is the only case where Jesus did not talk to only Jewish people. The reason why is that the Mosaic law was for Israel. It was for the Jewish people. And Jesus was the fulfillment of the law. He himself said, "I came to fulfill the law, not replace it."
Right, exactly.
So, and then when you look at his words, he never said anything about starting a new religion. He said, "My kingdom is no part of this world yet." Right. Well, not quite yet. He said, "My kingdom is no part of this world." Right. But he also said to his faithful disciples, "I am going to where? To my Father to procure my kingdom."
Right.
And today he reigns. Now people say, "Oh, well, this is all religious tripe." No. Let's go back to Genesis. Because Genesis chapter 2, verses 21 through 23 is a record of genetic engineering.
Right.
So who are the genetic engineers? You see, now we have to give this whole story different consideration. Mm-hmm. And this is one of the things, Papa Bear, you bring up how this fake news affects all of us. And something that I have done consistently is look at the news, look at the prophecies. Look at the news, look at the prophecies.
Right.
What's happening in the world? And when they match up, I know it's real. I'll give you a good for instance. Remember the Gulf oil disaster?
Yep.
Revelation 8:9, I saw something like a burning mountain being thrown into the sea, and a third of the sea became as the blood of a dead man, right. And a third of the souls in the sea died, and a third of the boats were wrecked.
Right.
Did you know that after the Gulf oil disaster, after this burning mountain-sized building fell into the ocean, and after we saw these huge oil slicks that looked more like blood clots than black oil, and after we saw all these dying creatures,
right,
a third of the Louisiana fishing fleet never sailed again.
Yes, and they were prevented from going out to do cleanup, and chemicals were just smacked right on top of it.
Yeah, and
so who knows if there's any life out there at all now. As far as I know, the Gulf Coast is the only thing it's good for is oil. Everything else is pretty much gone. I don't know about the crustacean. I know it was contaminated for a while. I don't know if it's cleaned up any at all because of the environment. And of course, the environment does clean itself up. Yeah,
let's take a look at this for look
at crustacean. How much stuff do they clean out of the ocean? That's why they say not good to eat them.
I was going to say, don't eat any kind of bivalves coming out of the Gulf of Mexico.
Oysters,
oysters, clams, any kind of shellfish.
Anything from the West Coast is kind of iffy too, because the radiation from Fukushima. I don't know if it actually washed out here or if it's been a scare or what, because you can't believe the reports. You got to go out there and find out yourself.
Last I heard, and this was a couple of years ago, that they actually admitted that all of the fish that they're catching, I think this was the tuna that they were catching,
right,
were contaminated with Fukushima radiation.
Right.
And they know it's Fukushima radiation because of the MOX fuel. MOX is the combination of uranium and plutonium. It's the depleted nuclear weapons that they're making fuel out of for these nuclear reactors. The problem is that the nuclear reactors are all 20 years old or older. and they're taking a super powerful fuel and putting it in the engine, so to speak. It's like taking your car engine, which is meant to run on about 90 octane, 87 octane, and putting aviation fuel in it, like 120 or 140 octane, and running it through that engine.
Like
Sooner or later,
at the drag races, yeah.
And how long do those engines last?
Oh, I don't know.
One run?
They'll usually drive them a quarter mile or so, and then they'll clean them all up, take them back to the shop, clean them all up, make sure they're ready for the next run.
Yep, they run those engines a quarter mile, bring them back, take them down, put them back together, run them another quarter mile.
And they use a lot of gas in that quarter mile, too.
Yeah, between 13 and 15 gallons.
Unreal.
It's an interesting. It's all about fuel delivery. But here we're about delivering the truth. Here's a hint, and I learned this several years ago. If CNN is playing it, it's something that they want you to believe. It's propaganda that they're pushing. Do you know they pushed the Nelson Mandela funeral for 12 days?
Yeah, no doubt.
When he died the second time, when I knew that this was going to be a hoax when the news out of China, because I stopped watching CNN or any American news. I was actually watching or getting my news out of China, out of Beijing. Yeah. And they would actually, believe it or not, give news from around the world. And you could say, oh, so that's what's really happening. How come they're not reporting about this in the U.S.? Everything's Stormy Daniels and Donald Trump. What kind of news is that?
Yeah, right. Stormy Daniels is going to defame, or actually she's worried about her character, about defamation of her character. Hello? I mean, how much lower are you going to go?
Lady, we know what you do for a living. Come on.
How can you defame that? I mean, you've done pretty good on your own.
Unless she goes to Canada, where I believe it's now legal to engage with. Never mind.
Yeah, move to Nevada. Anyway, go to the chicken ranch. Yeah. Anyway, it was Thomas Jefferson who regarded newspapers as the purveyors of falsehoods and propaganda machines. Okay, so it's not just Trump that talks about false news. All right, you're going all the way back to Jefferson.
You want to know
who's new?
You want to know who started the Civil War? The media.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
You want to know who started the First World War?
Yeah.
The media.
And the second.
Yeah. The First World War is kind of interesting. If you go and look at the research here, what is it? Archduke Frederick of Ferdinand, whoever. It was Archduke. He was the Archduke of Austria, Ferdinand. Nobody liked this guy. He was a spoiled brat. And so when he got whacked, probably most of royalty thought, yeah, he got what he deserved. Yeah. But it was the media that was pushing for retaliation.
Yeah.
How could the royal family let this happen without having some sort of retaliation against Serbia? Serbia, get ready for retaliation from the royal family. Yeah. Serbia is now arming itself, getting ready. What are you kidding me? Yeah. The media played both sides right into a war, which was funded by both sides by the Rothschilds. Who owns the media? They're all in it together, folks. How many shares do you have in General Dynamics?
No matter what side you're on, they win. They support both sides. Believe me, they're getting paid by both sides, and then they're getting paid. Of course, the money has to go through them to rebuild, right? They're getting both ends of that deal too. Believe me, and then you talk about press and popular, opinion, if you will, popular opinion. A judge rules that Iran has to pay $6 billion to the victims of 9/11. All right, but the investigation, it found no evidence of Iranian involvement. So Iran's not involved at all. There's no involvement, but they have to pay $6 billion to the families of the people who lost out on 9/11 back in 2001.
Well, they got to get that. They got to get that money that Obama gave to them back somehow.
$12.5 million per spouse, $8.5 million per parent, $8.5 million per child, and $4.25 million per sibling to the families and estates of the deceased. Right? Plus, they put a 4.96 annual percentage rate on it, and they retroed it all the way back to September 11th, 2001. Right? You think they're going to pay? You think they're going to pay for that? You know, it used to be you couldn't sue a sovereign government, right? They were immune from sovereign lawsuits. Well, that just changed. 2016, when we passed a code, it's called the Justice Code, or the Justice Against Sponsors of Terrorism Act. Okay. Oops. And they tried to stop that act from going through because they told the soldiers that if that went through, they were going to get sued. They tried everything they could to stop that.
Oh, the hell well.
Yeah, right.
But you know, the crazy thing is,
right.
Like, these people are ever going to get paid for this? And what involvement was there in Iran other than they sponsor, or it's claimed that they sponsor state terrorism?
Well, yeah, and here's the thing. There was a public relations firm that was hired by Saudi Arabia that was paid to fly veterans to D.C. to visit legislators and argue against that law. Right? And veterans didn't even know their trips were paid for by the Saudis. Okay.
Oh, how the world squirms. And you know, here's the thing. We have, first of all, the people are out of control in several different ways.
Yeah.
But primarily what I am referring to is that we no longer have control over the government.
Right.
Okay. We don't have control over the press. We don't have control over anything except what we have control over in our immediate lives. And that is generally dictated by the slavery that we're put under. Because you got to pay your rent, you got to pay your bills, your electric bill and your gas bill and your water bill, and you got to pay for gasoline to get back and forth to work. You're going to have a car payment. So we're saddled with all of this debt right out of the box. And then we go to work for a company that we look at, man, my boss is a slave driver. You know, you could go on for hours with jokes about bosses. They're like a dirty diaper. You know, it's whatever you want to, and we put in our 9 to 5 and then we go home. Well, first of all, I'm going to tell you something. If you can put in a 9 to 5 and cover all your bills, you're doing good, because I never could.
Yeah, exactly. You'll never get rich working 9 to 5, punching the clock.
You'll never be successful. When I was most successful, I was putting in 12 to 16 hours a day. Yeah,
you're going to have something else on the table, some other iron in the fire. What is it they say? Don't put all your eggs in one nest.
Well, you know, I was in marketing. I spent a career working for, when I left chemistry, I got tired of dealing with chemicals and people who didn't appreciate what you were able to do for them, and moved to a different realm where I could deal with people who directly didn't appreciate what you were able to do for them.
Right.
But I wound up going into marketing, telecommunications marketing, sales and marketing. Yeah. And I worked for some of the biggest telecommunications companies on the planet, and was very successful in doing so. But I studied as much time as I spent studying chemistry to become a chemist. I spent in comprehending and learning what drives people, what causes people, what creates success.
Right.
Hours. Well, I had plenty of windshield time. I wore out cassettes and cassette players in my car. That back in the day, you know, we didn't have CDs back then.
Yeah.
And so I would listen to the same thing over and over and over, drilling it into my brain. Yeah, absolutely. Ziglar, Norman Vincent Peale. Oh, shucks.
Yeah.
All different programs. One of my favorites, still around, Tony Robbins. Brilliant man, but he built his knowledge on what everybody else did.
Exactly.
You know, so it's all accumulated knowledge on how we interact and deal with each other. And therein is the key. And Papa Bear, I know you're going to back me up on this. I have been around the world, and there are only a few places where people seem to naturally care and positively interact with each other. And that's one of the reasons I live here in Maine now.
Right.
There is still a sense of community among the people.
Maine is awesome. I love it here. I love it.
My daughter-in-law, everybody thinks of Walmart. It's like, Walmart. Yeah, well, everybody goes to Walmart at least once a week unless you have a chauffeur.
Right.
I don't care who you are, how much you badmouth Walmart. We're all going to wind up there because they all have stuff that otherwise we got to make 900 stops along the way, unless there are specific places we like doing business with, which is in the case of living in Maine. I like to do business as locally as possible, but you still wind up at Walmart.
You've always got that little general store that sells gas and makes sandwiches and coffee and breakfast sandwiches, stuff like that. Oh, yeah, that's very popular up here.
Absolutely, and everybody knows everybody else. But here's the point I wanted to make. My daughter-in-law she's visited up here a few times while we were building, never really as she comes here, she says hello, she goes back down.
Right.
Went back down to New York. First time she went to a Walmart up here, her remark was, "That's the nicest Walmart I've ever been in."
No kidding.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh,
the people are nice. It's all clean. Everything is orderly. There's a sense of respect for each other.
There is. It's a whole different planet up here in the state of Maine. It really is. That's why they call it God's country. I'm sure it isn't the only place they call it God's country. Peter, we need to...
take a break.
We do. Anyway, this is what's out there on the LNM Radio Network, latenightinthemidlands.com, lnmradionetwork.com. I'm Papa Bear. Hang in there. We'll be right back.
There are days that the red pill is bitter in my stomach, but I can't get it back out. I think because I have to. I speak because I have no choice. I walk through this dark age we're in with open eyes. Listen to Open Eyes on latenightinthemidlands.com. And together, maybe we won't stumble and fall.
The LNM Radio Network offers a chat room for you, the listener, to connect with others whom are interested in the topics and guests that the LNM Radio Network brings to you. During the live shows, the hosts will even visit the chat room and chat with you, the listener. Click on the big red Chat and Listen button at the top of the website and join us. No subscription is needed at either lnmradionetwork.com or latenightinthemidlands.com.
Why subscribe to Late Night in the Midlands, you ask? Well, I'll tell you why. Late Night in the Midlands covers everything, and through the thousands of expert guests who have joined Michael Vera on his show, come pieces of the big puzzle, which started many years ago. Michael and his guests reveal information dating back to the beginning of time. To this very moment, Michael Vera not only brings you the best guests with the best information, but Michael is not afraid to call out those who are less than honest. You see, in this day and age, we need a radio show we can count on and a radio host we can trust to expose the truth one show at a time. So become a late nighter and subscribe now. Talk radio like no other. Late Night in the Midlands, bringing the truth back to talk radio.
Do you need toner for your Epson, Hewlett-Packard, Canon, Brother, Apple, or Sharp printers? Look no further than Laser Technologies. In business for over 20 years, they offer the lowest prices on toner on the web. They can also repair your laser printers and toners fast and easy. Call their expert staff today at 561-792-9600 or email us at service@laser-technologies.com for all your toner needs. All toner is shipped nationwide. Why wait? Get the lowest prices on toner. Call or email us today.
There is a better radio show, beyond that which is known to the people. It is a radio show more informative than others, and as timeless as infinity. It is the equilibrium between light and dark, between the sheeple and the paranormal, and it is heard at the base of man's ignorance and at the summit of his knowledge. This is the radio show of imagination, a show we call The Secret Teachings.
Music by Ben Sound at bensound.com. I kind of like this. Something wrong with me. I do that every show. Anyway, this is What's Out There. I'm Papa Bear. This is LateNightInTheMidlands.com, LNMRadioNetwork.com. You can catch us on iTunes, TuneIn Radio, the Paranormal Radio app, and also TalkStream Live. So if you miss the program, you can hear us 12 hours after we go live at TalkStream Live at the LNM Radio Network. Also, 101.7 WCET, Columbia Talk. And those are the biggies right there. Anyway, we are back, and back with Peter Kling. Welcome back, Peter Kling.
Thank you very much, Papa Bear. Hey, I was, just talking during the break about what we see that's fake in the news. When we start doing our own research, we're able to start to put pieces together. And we've got this phenomena that's going on now, the Q phenomena, the Q posts.
Yeah.
And Barry, you brought up something really, really good. What did you say? They were like a soap opera, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's like a soap opera.
You don't want to miss a day of the Q post, and I'm not demeaning them or belittling them.
Oh no,
they do seem to be an accurate source of news.
Oh, yeah, they're more accurate than the mainstream. I've been monitoring that, watching it. I haven't been reporting on it though, but I do want to make mention now that you do mention that. I do want to make mention that if anyone has a suggestion or something they want to talk to me about or they want me to report on, leave it in the comments on the YouTube video here, and I'll look into it. Anyway, go ahead, Peter. I'm sorry.
Well, I just want to use that as one example of being able to find accurate information. Now, you kind of have to decode it, and people don't want to go through it. But there are some people who do a very good job on decoding what Q is telling us or what Q is being let known. Now, some of the stuff, I mean, let's take a look at these, 25,000 sealed indictments?
Yeah.
We're listening to all this stuff going back and forth. It's like, there's now a direct challenge from Mueller with this Mueller investigation, and now he wants Donald Trump to answer questions. As soon as Trump answers one question, and everybody's saying this too, Trump likes to talk. And as soon as Trump talks, Mueller's going to be recording every word he says, and then he's going to have a team of specialists go analyze every word that Trump said and find him in a lie somewhere.
Okay, here's a different picture I see. Okay, Mueller had a meeting with Trump, right? And according to the reports, Mueller wanted to talk to Trump about heading up the FBI. Okay. Mueller can't do that. There's a 10-year cap on a term limit on that position, and there was a special accommodation made, I guess, for 2 years of that. So Mueller had already spent 12 years on that, and he couldn't go back to that. So his conversation with Trump was about something else. See,
I guess we're going to see. Time will tell. We just have to be patient.
Mueller's a mystery. He could be wearing either hat. And the reason why I'm leaning toward white is because, remember the Russia thing, okay, and the investigation and the special counsel? Well, that got milked. That got milked to the statute of limitations, to where the Democrats said, hey, we're going to have to do something here or we can't do anything. And that was when they decided to file suit. It was laughable. But they had to do something. So why did he milk it past the statute of limitations? Okay. And of course, the way it was written up, and any other situations that would arise from it, which leads, of course, right back into the Clinton Foundation and all that good stuff. I don't know. I don't know which way to go with Mueller. And I don't know which way to go with Sessions. Because he definitely did something I was against at the Malheur Refuge. And he's not communicating very well. He's sitting in the background. And who knows? I don't know if he's getting ready to spring, if he's just making a bad appearance. You know how it goes when you play a game of chess? You look like you're weak. You know what I mean? You don't play strong, man.
It's like, why did he make that move? That move makes no sense.
Right.
Oh, yes, it does.
Right, exactly. It's like, just when you think they're most vulnerable, and it's, wait a minute, you didn't see that one, did you?
But here's the fail-safe in all of this.
This is carefully crafted. This has been crafted for a while. Think about this: the pedophiles that are going down. How long were those rings building up, and how big did they get, and who's involved, and how much of it has come down in the past year? Okay.
How much has been exposed? Exactly. It may not be carried by the mainstream media.
Weinstein.
Now he's in a lawsuit with Ashley Judd, and
I swear to God,
somebody else just launched a lawsuit against him. I just heard it overnight.
I swear, when they did the Globes and they all wore black, it was because Weinstein couldn't be there. It's the Me Too movement. Yeah, you too. You knew what he was doing too. How about that? Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And so they're all complicit.
Got your number.
They're all complicit.
But it's all coming apart. This is why De Niro's really mad at Trump too, because he's neck deep in it. You wouldn't think so, but he is. He's unreal.
Here's the thing. Anybody who is rich and famous at this juncture, who is known from coast to coast anyway.
Allison Mack.
I'm going to say 80% of them are involved one way or another.
Oh, yeah. Here are the some of the pieces that were put together. Little Adam Schiff. They spell that Liddle because of a program called Little Kids. Okay? Adam Schiff is in the middle of that. There's this Allison Mack thing, okay, which comes back to the Standard Hotel, which is in Adam Schiff's district, okay, which he spends a lot of time with the owners because they also have two other ones. They have one in D.C. and one in New York City. Okay. Pedophile ring. Sex slavery. Guilty, huh? Is what she's saying. Pretty much.
Here's an interesting little factoid.
3 hotels, D.C. Imagine.
I was before we left Pennsylvania to move up here. I caught a news program, local news, and they were interviewing a police chief a couple of counties over. And he said that their number one crime was opium related. Their number two crime was pedophile related.
Right.
This is on the local level.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
This is on the local level. So
Sort of
if number one and number two, if number one is drugs and number two is child trafficking, let's take a look. Oh yeah, on a worldwide basis, the number one moneymaker is drugs. The number two moneymaker is human trafficking.
Right. And what happened in Afghanistan, right? Oh, we liberated Afghanistan. No, we didn't. They're selling sex slaves there. Is that what you call liberation?
You know, we liberated Libya, right? Put down Gaddafi's government, and now they're exactly what happened 200 years ago is happening again. They're capturing African men and auctioning them off as slaves.
Right.
Come on.
Oh, yeah. It's great. What goes on in the minds of men? Seriously, what goes on in the minds of men? It's just not right.
The dog didn't even like that one.
No kidding, huh?
Yeah, she piped right up. Anyway, yeah, that's. But who's buying these slaves?
Exactly. Right. Yeah. Who's buying? Where are they going? Diamond mines?
Yeah, you know, that's what you have to start to question. If they're being sold, okay, well, who's buying them? This is being done in a public auction. It shouldn't be too hard to figure out.
That's right. And what's being done with them? Are they working or are they being sacrificed?
So where's CNN on this?
Right.
You know, where's NBC? I mean, where are the reporters showing that this atrocity that's going on since Libya has been liberated?
Right.
You know, you know, here's the point. I think where it comes down to, we're surrounded by lies and deception. Wherever we look, it's lies and deception. So guess who we have to count on? Ourselves.
Well, yeah. You know, my father told me years ago, he said, you don't need a diploma. Anything you want to learn, you can find in a library. Okay? I found that working with my hands and saving money, instead of having to spend it to have these little things fixed, I was a whole lot better off. But no, I didn't earn a lot of money, but I can tell you I saved a lot. Okay? And the thing is, when people also don't understand, when you go to work for somebody, you're not going to walk in there experienced to know what's going on day one. And they know that. They're going to train you for two reasons. One, you might have bad habits. They don't want you to bring in bad habits, something that you did wrong somewhere else. They're going to teach you the right way because it's most beneficial to them. They're worried about the bottom line. That's what a lot of people don't understand about getting jobs. They will train you.
Pretty much. When I was back in the chemistry, yeah, I'll give you a real good example. When I was in chemistry, somebody new was hired on. They got to spend the first 2 weeks with me. However, when I went into telecommunications, I went to work for Ma Bell. 3 months of computer-based training. 3 months before I could even talk to anyone.
Right.
Then they shipped me out to Denver to put me through 2 weeks of what they called immersion training. Essentially what they did is they cut open your skull, pulled out your brain, threw it into a frappe machine, cranked it up on high, and poured it back in the way that they wanted it.
Yeah.
Boy, I'll tell you though, I learned a lot from those 2 weeks. My goodness, Those 2 weeks taught me more about how people act and react, because this was work that was done by a major, one of the world's largest corporations, the people who invented the Bell system, the last company to have its own private research and development crew, which was solely for the purpose of research and development.
Supposedly.
Now it's called DARPA.
Right,
It used to be called Bell Labs, and then it became Lucent Technologies, and now we call it DARPA.
Okay, yeah, this is where all your robotic stuff is coming from, your four-legged mules and all that, yeah.
The stuff, I was shown stuff 25 years ago that is only now starting to become available on the market.
Right, yeah.
That's no joke.
Finally hearing about, yeah. Well, you know, Kevin Shipp, who was with the CIA, he says that Trump is picking up where we're trying to pick up where Kennedy left off. You know, go back to the United States note, right? And gold-backed money and all that. That's, remember, H.R. 5404 was back to the gold standard. And yeah, I think, honestly, I think Trump is picking up or doing what Kennedy set out to do, but Kennedy got stopped from doing. Trump has his own security team.
Now,
they made sure of that.
Let's just analyze this here for a second. I agree with what you're saying. However, Kennedy was dirty. And what I mean by that,
his father, Joe Kennedy.
Joe Kennedy wrote checks on John's life that John wasn't about to cash.
That's right, exactly. And that was where the problem was, because John wasn't going to cash those checks. And that's where the problem lied, right there.
Yes.
Bobby Kennedy the same way. You know, I mean, they were the two good Kennedys, right?
You would think so. At least they seemed to, you know, that's when Kennedy died, they said Camelot ended.
Yeah.
Well, guess what? Camelot might be back. When you look at, you know, the appearance, we now know we had John Kennedy liked his women, so did Bobby. They shared Marilyn Monroe, and there's all the dirt.
Kennedys have always had a
trouble keeping it in their pants.
A weak spot with women. I mean, come on, right? Ted Kennedy, Chappaquiddick. They've always had a problem with women.
Well, whatever the case might be, here's the problem with that. Here's why John failed. Is because he isolated Israel.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Here's where Trump will succeed. Yeah. Because he has sided Israel and he's isolated the Catholic Church, coming against the Knights of Malta, who have been above the law of the land.
Yeah.
And that's what we see happening right now.
You know,
the man of lawlessness is being exposed.
Yeah.
That's prophecy from 2 Thessalonians, the 2nd chapter.
Right. And then that come back to Revelation 3:9.
It's going to come actually. It'll go from here to Revelation chapter 17 with a short stopover to pick up the image of the wild beast in chapter 13. Because
I'm thinking, woe unto you, false Jews.
Well, eventually it'll get there. If you go to... But here's what's happening now. Here's what's out there.
Yeah. Here's what's out there.
How do you take down religion? Expose the child trafficking and the pedophilia within it.
Let it take out itself.
Yes.
That's what it's doing.
And there you go. And
you know,
so
start
when
with
Trump,
marriage and stuff like that, and who's leading the church, and it'll take itself out.
Go back to the executive order on... that Trump put into action on 12/21, where it says that the assets would be blocked and then seized by people who are violating human rights,
right,
and people who are committing conspiracy.
Yeah.
So if you're involved in child or human trafficking, or child or pedophilia, or child pornography, or whatever the case might be, violating that child's right,
Right.
You and your organization are now subject to having your assets blocked and then seized. Put that on the level of the Vatican and think of how much gold sits on altars around the world.
Oh, yeah.
And then we'll go to Revelation chapter 17, where it says the harlot would be stripped bare, stripped naked. In other words, she would be fully exposed.
Right.
Her fleshy parts eaten, the wealth taken away, and the rest burned with fire. Total destruction.
Yeah. Yep.
And so that's what we can expect to happen. It ain't going to go down easy, but it is going to go down.
Oh,
and it will go down totally. And the mechanism is put into place. It's called child trafficking.
No doubt.
So there you have it. Now, the one thing that Trump is doing, which is, there's the scripture, and we know the Zionists love to twist the scriptures the best that they can, and blessed is the man that holds the skirt of a Jew.
Right, yeah. Yeah.
So there you go. You see,
Exactly.
that's why the embassy is going to Jerusalem.
Right.
The U.S. embassy is going to Jerusalem.
Right.
And so
Yeah.
where Kennedy snubbed the Zionist control in politics, Trump has embraced it.
Right.
And
Now-
so between that and the military,
Right.
adios, so long, goodbye, deep state.
Now we'll see where it goes from there, because someone's supposed to take that over. Right.
Beware the shadow government.
Right. All
That
right,
will be
Peter.
coming next.
The final countdown was on last night, and I missed it.
We actually had a very good show last night.
I got parts of it. I heard parts of it. I apologize. I didn't get parts.
That's quite all right. We were looking at what's under the ice in Antarctica. And, there's so much going on down there. You want to talk about no news,
Right.
or, suspicious news. The stuff that's being reported is virtually it ranks right up there with science fiction.
See that? Everybody wants to know what's under the sheets.
Yeah, but here's
Yeah.
the thing. Science fiction or science fact, because the truth, you can't make some of this stuff up. You just can't. The truth is stranger than fiction any day.
Oh, indeed. Indeed it is.
And so there you have it. So
All right.
we're on Tuesday nights, the final countdown. You find us here together on Wednesdays, and I do appreciate this format because we get to talk about different things, a little bit more on the political side, what's happening. It all ties together. I don't care which way you want to take this. It's like one big octopus. It all ties together, which is, interestingly enough, is one of the things that they claim to have found in Lake Vostok. An octopus with 14 arms that can hide itself dramatically and will hunt a human down and consume it.
Wow.
Yeah. You go look up the Vostok monster, and it's interesting. It's interesting.
Right.
This was alleged by a Russian scientist that was on the team. However, with that being said, folks, you can follow me on Facebook. Come and join me. I got plenty of friend space. If you haven't read it already, read Letters to Earth. The future is yours. Yeah, it's going to be a bumpy road, but we have a fantastic future ahead, and you're not going to want to miss it. With that, I'm going to say love and blessings to all. Have a most fantastic day. Again, thank you, Papa Bear. Have a great day. We got beautiful weather today.
Oh, it's beautiful. It's going to be up in the 80s, so I love it. Thank you for being with us, Peter. Let's see. LNM Radio Network, Late Night in the Midlands. Please come on over to the website. Subscribe. You'll get 10 years of archives in there. Believe me, there's a lot of knowledge in there, stuff you really don't want to miss out on. And although it might seem old in there, you might find that a lot of that stuff in there is new to you. If subscriptions aren't for you, a donation is fine. Anything you can do to help would be appreciated. We are 100% listener supported. So without your donations, we don't exist. I don't get paid to do this. This is just, kind of spare time for me. And we archive this show. This is What's Out There on YouTube at YouTube channel What's Out There. And like, share, subscribe. And if you would, in the comments section, if there's something you'd like to hear about, you'd like me to go over, drop it in there and I'll get to it. Anyway, I'm Papa Bear, and that, my friends, is what's out there.
Well, we need to know a couple of things. Number one, we need to know how the world's premier law enforcement agency managed to lose 5 months worth of text. And what's also troubling is in the text we do have, they're discussing how to avoid text being captured and secured. So what's missing is important, but also what's there is important. It is manifest bias, not just against Trump, but against his kids, against his business interests. There's a text where they hope the Trump hotel fails. That is a level of bias that you rarely see and you never see from law enforcement officers. What's also troubling to me is this text that Johnny Ratcliffe found last night about this secret society. Now, I have no clue what that means because that was not the phraseology I used, but it's the day after the election, and it's the same two people that were discussing a little bit later in the text the damage they had done with the Clinton investigation and how they could, quote, fix it and make it right.
What's out there?